The second I turned the camera on, someone started mowing. I promise. So, the deal was we are having problems with the bearings because they're too tight. They're actually within specs, but I'd like to have them a little bit wider. And my friends who are smarter than me, which is all my friends, said that, yeah, Mike, you need to have them wider than that. So that's what I did. I told you that we ordered those bearings from Summit, and in typical Summit style, they were literally here the next day. King bearings, one thou oversized. So these are made specifically. I'll show you the number. Took actually a bit of research. Can I do this with the wide angle lens on? Yeah, I think you got that. So it took a little bit of research to find these guys. Unlike what I wanted to do is find the standard King bearings, because that's what I have uncoated, and just get those 1 thou over, which would be great. The Clevites are tighter than the Kings, and even with them being 1 thou over, they would still be a bit on the tight side. And I couldn't. They were more expensive than the Kings, and the Kings are coated. I don't know, but anyway, bam, they were there. We got the dowels for the top of the blocks, and we got the dowel pins for the cylinder heads, these guys, and yeah, it all came super fast. But last week, being that I'm talking to you from a Sunday again, was like the craziest week. We started out with my bank calling me and telling me they were going to cancel my bank account because I was using it for business, and I was like, bro, I've been using it for business for 3 or 4 years now, and I've never hid that. So I don't know why this is an issue now, but so yeah, I had to go open a bank, and I had to do a bunch of silly legal type stuff to get that done, to have a business account. And then Bob got ringworm, so we've been dealing with Bob being, he doesn't really seem to care, but I do, so trying to anti-fungi the shop sheep. And yeah, so it's just been kind of a crazy week, which we all have. But the idea today is, let's get these bearings in and check them out and see if we get the clearance that we need. So here's the difference in the bearings. These are the coated 1 thou extra clearance, and these were just kind of the regular King bearings. These are actually very economical, and I like that in the bearings. That's why I use the Summits, because they were really well priced, and they just need to be the area that lets the oil go in between them for the most part. So the coated race bearings, what they call the race bearings, were a bit more expensive. Those, I want to say that the standard bearings were, I want to say 30-40 bucks for the set. I could be wrong, but I know for a fact, because it's been a while since I bought them, but I know for a fact these guys were like 105 bucks for the set. So yeah, I measured them with a I measured both of them with a mic, just a standard mic, and it looks like there's about like 5 tenths of a thou. So that would equal one bigger if that's how it works out. So let's get the in here now are the standard coated Clevites. We'll get those guys out and get the other ones in. Yada yada yada. When I was in school, we'd line home these guys, and line home is like tough, man. It's kind of a guessing game where you sand the caps down, like you literally put them flat, like this, on a piece of, you know, like a flat piece of metal with a piece of sandpaper over, and you sand, try to sand maybe a thou off of them, and that what that does is it makes that round hole's no longer round anymore, and it gives you a smaller inside diameter than what you need and then you stick a big hone, it's a big bar with stones all the way down it, and you kind of, it spins with cutting oil, and you move it back and forth as it kind of goes through, and the idea is to make this circle not only round but consistent all the way through the block. We do that, and we get we'd sand it, put it back together, run it, and we was getting like these results. Like it was not doing what you'd think it would be doing. And then one of the smart instructor guys is like, hey, how are your caps lined up? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Well, these caps, as you drop them down, they can have quite a bit of play in where they actually end up at when you bolt them down by just kind of tapping around a little bit. This right here and this here allows for them not to sit. So what I try to do is I try to get them centered on the cap by eyeball as best you can. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Since it sounds crazy, you're like, Mike, you're talking crazy talk. I know, I get that. I don't ask you to believe me. I'm just telling you what we did, and it was actually effective. Right down in here, you can see this like little lip right here. Well, you can get it when it smashes down to be quite a bit off. And you see like there's a bit of a lip there, but over here the lip is gone. And what I try to do is I try to just pay attention and kind of get it centered, so the lip on the front side is then, flip it around so the light catches this, is then like the line that's there on the back. And by doing that helped that process be a little bit more consistent, make a little more sense. And it also makes sense when you're lining, your bearings and everything out. Just like, that's one of those little extra checks you can do, as opposed to just slamming it down. I'm not trying to say that it wouldn't work if you just slam it down. I'd say probably 99.9% of the people out there have no idea that was even a thing, and just slam it down. The only ones that self-center are like the LS2 blocks. They're dowels where they actually have to sit on the recess. And those people that slam them down, it works fine. But that's just one little thing where you can kind of find some consistency in your builds. And who knows, maybe it helps hold the bearings more stable. It's a possibility. Maybe this whole thing starts moving around anyway at a certain horsepower level, and it doesn't really make all that much difference. But yeah, that's what I do. So that one is 2.6 in the back, but the front is a bit off. Front says it is 2. It's not that bad. 2.8. So 2.6 to 2.8. We'll call it 2.7. Alright, so here's what we got. Run down the bearings. What we had was 1.4, we have 2.2 now. We had 2.3, we have 3.1. We had 2, and now we have 3.8. And we had 1.9, now we have 2.8 and 2.7. So ideally I'd like to, I'd like 2.2 to 2.5, kind of like across the board. I think that makes sense with the aluminum blocks. Sometimes they expand a little bit. You don't want a whole ton of clearance in there. So So we're gonna keep this guy because that's the best we got on number 3, and then we are probably going to put some mix. We're probably gonna mix like half undersized bearings with the regular bearings to kind of see what we come up with. Yeah, because there's really nothing there I'd want to keep. We're actually a bit on the big side all the way around. Yay, we get to change the fucking bearings again. Woohoo! Alright, so what we got here is a hodgepodge of bearings. So the back ones are just the oversized kings, and then this guy here is the standard kings, and then from the number 3 forward is a mix of the standards on the top and the coated on the bottom, the undersized ones on the bottom. I figured I'd put the coating on the bottom because that's usually what sees the most wear, although that coating usually just wipes off like the first time you start the car anyway. But alright, so we got these guys in there, and yeah, we're gonna just run the dial gauge through it once again and see if this is our final iteration of bearings. I hope so. Getting real tired of swapping in and out bearings. But here we go. Here we go. Alright, so what we got is 2.3, 2.6, 2.8 on number 3, which I don't mind a little extra clearance in number 3. We'll have to check the thrust when we get the crankshaft in and see if we need to file these guys down or do anything. Usually you do. And we got 2.6 and then 2.3, which I don't mind the end ones being a little on the tighter side either. So that's actually pretty good. Yeah, it's like 2.6, 2.6, 2.8, 2.3, 2.3. Cool. So what we'll do now is we'll pop this out for the last time, and we'll put oil in the caps, and on the crankshaft we'll drop the crankshaft in, and then we're just going to tighten it down one at a time. And as we're tightening it, we're going to be rotating it just to see like if there's any kind of weirdness going on. It should be able to sit there and just kind of woo woo, and everybody be happy. So that's what we're gonna do. And I'm gonna tighten all these again, and you're gonna want to watch it. I know. Well, if these bearings weren't fighting me, I don't know what I'd be doing with my extra time. So yeah, by the way, number 3 is it feels sticky. So what I believe is going on is I checked the thrust, and it's only like 3 at best. I would say 2 is a pretty comfortable number, 2 thou, which is too low. So we need to open that up to like 6. So yeah, it wants to play games. It wants to fight. So we're gonna pull all these caps off, pull the number 3 bearings out, and we're gonna sand down the thrust surface a little bit so we can get closer to that 6 number, throw it back in there, and see how this crankshaft's turning. That's it. Yeah, I'm sure you guys don't want to watch that. Okay, that's how you find the cuts. If you ever wonder. Like, hey, did I just gouge myself ripping that bearing out of the fucking journal? And you got a huge gaping wound, but you're not sure? Just pour some of that on it. Bam, there you go. Now you know. It's like freaking out, man. So that it's already kind of wiping the bearing coating off, but it doesn't feel like it's gouging it. It's just like just kind of rubbing it off. So we sanded those down. We used some like 280 grit and cleaned the sides up. You can see like the finish on those sides now, if my camera would focus. It's much nicer, much more uniform. So we just took a couple thou off there because you can always take more off, but you can't put it back on. So we'll throw these guys back in, redo all the fucking bearings, and see if we got the thrust clearance that we need. Okay, so last time we put this guy in here and I torqued these guys down, I couldn't turn this crankshaft. I had to use like a 1-inch socket. And once I got going, it would spin. And you could spin it with the socket, but you just couldn't grab it by hand and spin it. So we checked the thrust. We added a little bit by sanding it. I haven't measured it yet, but I've already torqued these guys down to 60 and 50, which is the torque specs. And now you can see just the difference. It's just, now I just grab it. It just wants to spin, and what you do is you just drop these bolts down, line up that main cap like I was talking about before, drop these bolts down, snug them like just by hand, maybe like 20 foot-pounds if you're doing foot-pounds, and then you whack it with a hammer, put a socket on the front of the nose of this bolt, whack it with a hammer, go in the back, stick an extension down inside the crankshaft, whack it with a hammer back the other way, and then snug those guys down. And that sets that main bearing, you know, so both those flanges are lined up. So when you go to check it, yeah, you're getting accurate thrust readings. So, so that's pretty cool. That it feels a lot better. I was like, man, that sucks. So hopefully, you know, hopefully the rest of these go boop, 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 and everybody's happy, and there'll be rainbows and unicorns and all that stuff. Okay, so bearings fought me. They fought me. So, but we got this all sorted out, and everything is torqued down, minus the side bolts, which make no difference. And as you can see, the crankshaft turns nice. It's nice. That's what you want, is to be able to just spin it around, and it should just. I still need to take about another thou out of the thrust, but it was good enough. It's measuring at like 5 to 6, depending on how much I push or how hard I push. But I wanted about another thou in that, just to have that clearance in the thrust surface. But yeah, I mean, this is good, and we can clean that up when we disassemble it. What we can do now is move on to measuring the deck height of the pistons. We'll install some pistons on some rods and see how far up out of the hole or in the hole our pistons stick. But this is gonna be it for tonight. Glad we got the main bearing sorted. That was it seems like it's always like that with the main bearings for me. I don't know, I'm sure there's people that just throw them in and everything just works beautifully. For me, it seems to always be a bit of a fight, but hey, if it wasn't for the hard stuff, then it wouldn't be really worth it, would it? So yeah, until next time, this is Mike with Monkey Fab, signing out.